Hello. With this paper, I wish to share with you our journey in becoming an engaged university at the University of Pretoria. This presentation is part of a longitudinal study that I've been conducting the past 2 decades. Over the past 20 years, the University of Pretoria has become an internationally recognized teaching and learning, research and engaged university that is locally relevant through its social responsiveness and constructive involvement in community development through its community engagement and service learning. In institutionalizing and advancing the phenomena of community engagement service learning practices in higher education, we have learned valuable lessons and are continuously learning more towards the theoretical rationalization and models of implementing community engagement and service learning, the various designs for community engagement and service learning in the curricula of modules and study programs, good practices learned through community partnerships and approaches in community engagement and service learning. It's important to note that there's not only one way of doing community service learning successfully. And as you go along, you will discover many ways in doing this. Indirectly, this paper illustrates also the university's model for community engagement, which includes more than 300 modules in different academic programs across 9 faculties, 110 lecturers, 30,000 students doing an average of 40 hours community service learning in a year. The cost of this program is about €12 per year per student, and we contribute about €4 million in working hours to our local economy, and the imputed value of our community engagement amounts to about €6 billion per year. Defining community engagement. Community is defined by the elements that form part of it, those specific groups or segments of society within which engagement is taking place in a given space of activities at a given time. Engagement, on the other hand, is purposeful, planned activities as part of and conducive to an academic program, education, and benefits the institution of higher education, the academia, the student, the academic field, and the community. Our journey at the University of Pretoria in becoming an engaged university started during the 1920s. The focus in the early years was, where possible, on trying to solve or address social and health-related problems that existed in society. Since it was the years after there had recently been a flu pandemic, followed by the worldwide depression in the 20s. The university initiated many projects in those times, of which some turned into institutions with governmental support, such as orphanages, old age homes, and homes for disabled people. 60 years later, in the 1980s, the university decided to follow the global trend of doing charity-based work, founded and based on a need analysis in those communities that seems to be underdeveloped and even backward. Needs were prioritized, and when it was decided, without consulting the community, how to solve these problems, it slowly turned into a huge mistake with dreadful consequences. This practice created the illusion amongst these community members that others are responsible for me and my needs. And this approach further created and fed it into an already existing dependency cycle, the typical colonial approach that we all so well know. By the year 2000, the university's charity work had become the largest charitable trust in the Southern Hemisphere. A huge amount of funding, which came from donations mainly, was needed to sustain this program. 2 years earlier, in 1998, the then Minister of Higher Education called upon universities to take up their social responsibility in society and get more involved in upliftment of disadvantaged and socioeconomically deprived communities. The fact that no measurable impact was made and the projects failed became a huge concern for our community, our university. It was clear that because the ownership of the projects established by the university that stayed with the university was the reason for the failures. The communities were not empowered and development was not done by the community for the community. So in the year 2003, the university began to change its focus from charity towards community development. At the same time, the university decided to follow the international trends in service learning. But soon we learned yet another valuable lesson, that when a powerful institution such as the university provides free service to the community, it takes the micro, small and medium enterprises and service providers out of the market. It was only after our communities pointed out to us the devastating consequences of our well-intended service that we realized that we have to rethink the whole operation again. We have realized that a community service orientation, just as charity, is not a good methodology to use in developing countries. So we took the service out of our service learning. While many other universities started at that time experimenting with charity and community service. To make things more difficult, we had no idea at the time how to move forward and how to position community service and service learning. So we tried to place it as a third mission next to teaching and learning and research, with those who wanted to try it with their own pet projects as either an ad hoc activity or formally as part of a module within an academic program could prevail. Changing the culture of an institution is one of the most difficult endeavors to undertake. When something such as charity becomes fixed in the culture of an institution for many decades and needs to be changed, it is one of the most difficult things to transform within the institution. In about 2007, the university decided to give the service learning thing a little push and embedded it into the critical performance criteria of all staff. This would become another huge mistake we have made because, as you well know, once you start doing community work, you never stop and only want to do more. So overnight we have created a huge monster. Not only the communities complained that we overload them with our involvement, students also complained that they had so many modules with community engagement components that they barely had time for their normal studies. For these reasons, we could not get a community service learning policy successful pass through our Senate and had to rethink the whole concept again. In 2010, we submitted another proposed policy to Senate, but formally changed the service approach to a community development approach and named the methodology community engagement. Embedded into one module in all academic programs so that all students have the opportunity to do community work without compromising their studies. In responding to improving the quality of teaching and learning, and in order not to repeat the mistakes of the past, these modules require students to acquire experience in industry relevant to academic fields by getting involved and doing their community work mainly in local communities in socioeconomically deprived semi-rural areas. Since 2010, we have fine-tuned things even further. And today, in trying to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic, most faculties and academic programs employed a triple helix approach, consisting of practical work, work-integrated learning, and professional development aligned to the community engagement program or theme. Our current community engagement policy refers to the latter and further mentions the integration factors and interacting factors all contributing to work readiness at the same time. This unique approach to community-based learning augments the university's social responsiveness and increases its impact on society. Community engagement is about civic responsibility and being social responsive citizens. It is a powerful process towards teaching and introducing students to civic responsibility. It is not about teaching students to be slaves or to learn to serve or to serve to learn. It is about transferring skills and working together with the community to find solutions to problems they cannot solve on their own. Most universities today function within the context of highly diverse and sometimes unequal societies, with many of their communities impoverished in terms of education, social capital, culture and economics, with little access to development opportunities or knowledge, the latter of which the stock in trade of universities are at our doorsteps. The benefits of community engagement embedded into academic programs with a development approach are that this equally benefits the university, the lecturers, the students, the communities, the academic fields. It instills in everyone involved a sense of civic responsibility in a diverse, fast-changing world. It provides opportunities to learn how to manage relationships, since relationships in everything involved depends on working together in a harmonious way. It provides a deep learning experience to students. It fosters development of skills for both the student and the communities. It contributes towards the development of communities. It provides the opportunity to learn to solve problems. It impacts in a positive way on change and transformation in the institutions of higher education. And reciprocally, it feeds back into the curriculum. So there are so many benefits that we are discovering every day as we go along on employing community service and community engagement. It is becoming more and more important that your university knows why it is successful or not and is making a positive impact through its service learning endeavors or not. It's always a good thing to know why you have made a mistake, but it's also very important to know why you are successful in doing what you are doing. But there's a huge difference between success and impact. For the institutions of higher education, success is measured in terms of student numbers and numbers of community projects, numbers of sites of learning, the contribution to local socioeconomic development, and graduate attributes. Embedded community engagement as credit-bearing curricular community engagement in both the approach and the scope of social responsibility activities requires universities to deliberately exercise their social responsibility through their operations, practice, and partnerships. It fosters professional relationships in mutual beneficial partnerships based on trust and respect. Stay true to what you are. Do not turn your institution into a charity or into a white elephant or an ivory tower. Service learning impacts on universities strategically, academically, on the academia, on students and the community. It impacts in the community by achieving desired outcomes, capacity building, finding better solutions to problems and having these problems addressed by the community, and being solution-oriented, that is turning problems into solutions and development into transformation. Measuring impact is very important because you more and more have to report on the impact that you are making through your community service or service learning. We have developed a measurement tool which we call participatory impact assessment, and it's about what was done. It is about the change, the transformation that resulted from our activities. It's not about what we are doing. Achievement depends on the commitment of all participants, and it is not random activities. It is well planned, a pragmatic process comprising of different phases. Every phase, from planning, delivery through to impact assessment, includes members of the community, feeding reciprocally into the curriculum and to the next round of community development. To summarize, there are 8 factors to remember when institutionalizing community engagement or service learning towards a policy at your university. The first is conceptualization is an ongoing process. Don't try to get it right the first time. It's not going to be possible. As you grow and change, and as the world changes, you will have to change how you conceptualize your community service. Focus on basic principles, the why, where, how, and what you want to do. Remember, there's challenges, there's risks, there are conceptual traps, and there's your institutional culture. When embedding community engagement into academic programs, try to only have 1 module per academic program, not to overload the students. Reflection should be allowed to be open and not used to indoctrinate your students. Outcomes should be mutual beneficial, problem solving, contribute to change and transformation. It should be reciprocal, meaning feeding back into your curriculum. Understand the unique characteristics of your institution, the culture, and the academic fields available for academic service learning purposes. Understand the unique characteristics of your designated community. It could be a local community or target group, such as refugees. Identify the risk factors and work with those risk factors. Take it into consideration. It could be fragmentation, it could be poverty, it could be crime. You have to use those to your benefit and to your advantage. Most important, when pursuing institutionalizing service learning in your institution, be counter-traditional, follow your own approach, don't benchmark, don't do what others do. Do what is best for your institution. We are all the same in terms of universities, but we are all different in many ways. And dare to make your own mistakes. It's worth it in the end. So thank you for listening. Goodbye.